Kick-ass facts. Pew, 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 pew! In 1965, George and Charlotte Blonsky, a married couple living in New York, were granted U.S. patent number 3216423 for an apparatus for facilitating the birth of a child by centrifugal force. When a woman is ready to deliver her child, she lies on her back on a circular table. She is strapped down. The table is then rotated at high speed, and the baby flies out. This is intended to assist the under-equipped woman by creating a gentle, evenly distributed, properly directed, precision-controlled force that acts in unison with and supplements her own efforts. Though meticulously and lovingly engineered with safety features to protect both the mother and child, the device never made it into general use. Few people other than the Blonskys perceived the need for it. Their method stands rather outside most traditional birthing methods. Their mechanism is expensive and complex. Also, the tiny net designed to catch the child may have been inadequate to the task. A tiny net. When I was in high school, we went to one of those, I don't know, they call them merry-go-rounds, where you got to hold on for dear life. And I saw a friend of mine, she let go, and she was just a circle of dust and pain. Could you imagine a baby? Would the umbilical cord be like a bungee where you could just like shoot it back and up? From 1867 to 1974, various cities in the United States had unsightly beggar ordinances retroactively named ugly laws. These laws targeted poor people and disabled people. For instance, in San Francisco, a law of 1867 deemed it illegal for any person who is diseased, maimed, mutilated, or deformed in any way so as to be an unsightly or disgusting object to expose himself or herself to public view. Exceptions to public exposure were acceptable only if the people were subject to demonstrations. The language of the unsightly beggar ordinances pertained to hiding the parts of the person that may appear disabled or diseased. This included any movements that would indicate a disability or disease, such as limping. In most cities, punishments for violating an ugly law ranged from incarceration to fines of up to $50 per each offense. Ugly laws identified groups of people as disturbing the flow of public life and forbid them from public spaces. Pennsylvania's was different as it contained language applying to cognitive disability as well as physical disability. An attempt was made at introducing ugly laws in New York, but it failed in 1895. The last ugly laws were repealed in 1974. Omaha, Nebraska repealed its ugly law in 1967, yet had an arrest of a person for violating the unsightly beggar ordinance documented in 1974. Columbus, Ohio repealed its law in 1972. Chicago was the last one to repeal its ugly law in 1974. For somewhere around 10 years, the John Lawson House in New Hamburg, New York was known for a puzzling reason. A trio of mannequins camped out on the porch. There were life-size mannequins, their clothing changed on occasion, their hair changed as well, they wore different wigs and held different props. The mannequins posed with things like old plastic milk containers, holding scented leaves, an empty bird cage, toolboxes, and even books. No one knows what the mannequins were supposed to represent, or even if they represented anything. No one has any idea who lived in the house at the time. John Lawson is the man who built the house, but he was not the person who moved the mannequins around. No one ever saw anyone move the mannequins. Dun dun dun. Giraffes are 30 times more likely to get hit by lightning than people. There are only 5 well-documented fatal lightning strikes on giraffes between 1996 and 2010, but due to the population of the species being only 140,000 at the time, it makes for about 0.003 lightning deaths per 1,000 giraffes, which is 30 times the equivalent fatality rate for humans.